My screen says this session is being recorded.
Yeah.
It didn't say that when you clicked it, Rick.
Well, because I started it, it wasn't being done before, so you can't stop it per se. But I'll have to call them afterwards and find out what's going on.
It's just strange that you get the message on your computer and I get the same message on mine. But now I am recording and I did not get the message.
Okay. Well, I suspect it's not on the cloud, but we'll have to find out later.
We'll find out, right?
Okay. All right.
Jake,
So,
I sent you my copy of the screenshot in an email.
Okay. Thank you, Len.
Put it in a Word doc.
I don't care what Rick says, you're a good man.
Yeah, don't believe Rick.
That's right. Anybody in this group who believes me is in deep caca. All right, so here's who I see. I see Jake. I don't really see Jake, but I know Jake is there. I see Len. I see Dennis Correa. There was a competition on the two-back golf course this morning, Dennis. So I thought of you. I see Les Shelderup. I see Ken Anderson, Bill Franklin, Carl Foreman, Peter Kafka, and Paul Frieda. Have I got everybody?
I think so.
Looks like we're a cozy little group of buddies today. And caller number 1 and caller 01.
John Appler here, Rick.
Sorry?
John Appler.
John Appler. Rick, how you doing?
John Appler. Hello, John Appler. Welcome.
Hey, how you guys doing? Thank you.
Hey, John.
Hey, Jake.
Okay. Well, we're all old friends, so nobody new. So let us. Oh, that means maybe we'll be able to let maybe if you're up for it, we could talk a little bit about those heart issues that we've been talking about. Funny enough, it came up on Peter's call yesterday, but I didn't say anything. Okay, so let me run down and see who needs some time. Jake, is there anything you'd like to talk about before you go off for pizza?
No, Rick. Thank you. I'm going to my oncologist tomorrow. I'll probably have blood tests next week.
Okay. You got all your questions sorted?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to ask her. I don't know if I'm going to ask her anything, to be honest.
Oh, did you see my email about enzalutamide plus, I think it was Keytruda?
Yes. Yeah, I did. Thank you for sending that to me, or for pointing that out to me. I don't know.
So guys, let's come back. Let's talk about that. That's worth talking about. So I'm going to put you in for a quickie at the beginning before we lose you. Len, anything you'd like to talk about?
Well, I guess just the heart issue that Marguerite raised.
Right. Dennis, anything for you today?
Just listening in.
Okay. Les, anything you'd like to touch base on today?
Just a very quick one.
Okay. Ken, anything that you'd like to discuss?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Is it 97, Ken?
What do you mean, 97 degrees?
Yeah.
No, my house is 82. I live a little out of town.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know what the city was earlier.
Okay.
But
They said you had 97 yesterday and 90 today. We got 90 down here in Tubac. Bill, anything you would like to? Didn't you have something and we didn't get to it, or?
Yeah, I was just really wiped out last week, so I checked out early. Yeah, I'll discuss something.
Okay. Paul, anything that you'd like to raise this week?
Hello. Yes, please.
Okay. Peter, anything you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I have a thought if there's time. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Paul Frieda, anything for you this week?
Nothing for me this week, thanks.
Okay. And John, anything you'd like to tell us from Maui?
No, not today, Rick. I'm fine. Thanks for asking.
Okay, pleasure. All right, so let's start with Jake, who has been on enzalutamide for a long time. He'll tell us momentarily how long, and it's starting not to work, and looks like you'll be having to make some treatment decisions within the next few months, eh, Jake?
Yes. I'm trying not to panic, and so I'm still looking at the next few months, not imminent.
Right. So speak to us.
Well, okay, I've been on Xtandi for 2 years and 2 months. It's it worked for a long time, but it held my PSA down in the 0.5 to 0.7 range for longest time. But now it's been going up, and my last blood test in February was up to 6. So with a doubling time of about a month and a half, the way I calculated it. So, and anyway, so obviously I need to try something. My doctor suggested we'll probably try Zytiga next. And I know I said this before because she said that I'm a good responder to other to other treatments. So, and she's right. I always responded pretty well. So that's probably what we'll do next. But what Len and I were talking about was that there's an article that Bill Burhan sent to us, which I posted on Facebook for anybody who's interested. Posted the link to it. It's a pretty good article. It describes some of the. I'll let Len or somebody else describe it because they probably understand it better than I do. But anyway, Len pointed out a particular paragraph that mentioned an ongoing trial where they're trying Keytruda with enzalutamide. And the results, or maybe it's not an ongoing trial, maybe it's over. But the results were, I think, 3 out of 10 people responded. Did I read that right, Len?
Yeah, I was just going to check the email again myself. I don't even remember the details.
Yeah, I think I read that it was only 3 out of 10 people responded, and then he mentioned 2 others had a partial response. So, but I know now. I'll tell you right now, my doctor does not like trials unless she'll consider if it's a phase 3 trial, but other than that, she doesn't even want to consider it. And I wasn't impressed with the results myself. If I read the results correctly, I wasn't even that impressed.
I think that one thing. I mean, I realize that abiraterone is easy to access because it's approved. But I think I'd be pushing to look at apalutamide, a leader, which should be available off-label. It's just another second-line anti-androgen, and it may be a little better, but the interesting thing is that it works differently to the abiraterone. It works much more like the Xtandi,
right,
the enzalutamide. But it may be better, it may not be. It doesn't have as exaggerated a side effect profile, but you've done pretty well with respect to the side effects anyway.
I don't know about that.
But I think
put it that way.
Yeah, but you haven't had any really debilitating side effects from the enzalutamide, have you, Jake?
No, other than the fatigue.
Right. And the fatigue may be less with the apalutamide, but I do think it's worth putting it on her radar. She's not a GU med onc. and it's something that she should be looking into. That's a worthwhile discussion with her. You know, the abiraterone works completely differently. It doesn't work on the androgen receptors.
Right.
So, you know, she may say, well, let's try something completely different, and then we can go back to the apalutamide later. But I just think it's a good thing to discuss.
Well, the other concern that I have with apalutamide is it's not approved for metastatic cancer, number one. So I worry about the insurance. Will they cover it?
Well, that's what I'm saying to you. I mean, it's available off label, and a lot of times the insurance companies will cover it.
Yeah, Jake, because Rick was pushing me to start it, and I got Blue Cross Blue Shield to, and again, Paul had to put in his 2 cents that it was a treatment that he wanted me to take, but they approved it, and they're going to pay for it.
Oh, okay.
I think you have to get like your doctor has to say this is the drug you need to take, and I think they have a hard time saying no, you know. That's Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Well, that's what I have. I have the Federal Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
Well, then you probably would get it as well, I would say.
Okay. Well, that's good. At least that's one thing I don't have to worry too much about.
Right, and you know, you could even mention too that you know you have a buddy who's getting it through MD Anderson, but the doctor had to write a note for him to get it. But I think I mean, it's helpful when you hear this information in this group, because it gives you all we're trying to do is give you ammunition to make your best case.
Right.
And so it is helpful. But you know, if you've got a doctor who's willing to go the extra, like Paul Korn is, yeah, then it's great. If you've got a doctor who doesn't really want to be bothered, then get it, and they're going to give you what they want to give you. So it's really your call in how you manage your doctor.
Right. Yeah, I know she's got certain things in her mind, and you know, it takes some persuading. Why do you think apalutamide would be better than Zytiga?
I don't know that it would be better than Zytiga, but I think it's a better drug than enzalutamide. I think it's a more complete drug. So the question is, if the enzalutamide stopped working, but you'd responded to it for such a long time, maybe a slightly better version of that drug might continue working because we know you're receptive to it.
Right.
And that's the discussion to have with your doctor. I mean, I'm not giving you medical advice here. I'm just trying to think it through logically, that I think it might be a good alternative. On the other hand, she may say, look, why don't we just try a completely different approach with the abiraterone?
Right.
And see if we can stop testosterone being produced in other places, and see if that helps you any. You know, some of it also is how you feel about going on prednisone.
Yeah, I know I've heard some of the horror stories of prednisone and the weaning off and all that. That is a concern. I don't know.
Well, I think, you know, the weaning off is an issue, but if you wean off properly, it's no problem. It's when you don't wean off. But I can't recall. I mean, anybody had any bad experiences with prednisone on this call?
Yeah, this is Dennis. The only thing I've started is a little bit of edema on down towards my ankles and the lower legs, and it's probably the result of the prednisone. It's not debilitating in any way, and I just got to watch my salt intake and continue with the exercise and so forth, and I think it'll be controlled.
Aren't you the one, Dennis, that told us that you felt better on the prednisone?
Yeah, it actually took care of some of my arthritic aches and pains that
Right.
I've
That's
been
what I thought.
suffering
Yeah.
with for years. Yeah.
Well, before we lose Jake, does anybody want have any words of wisdom or suggestions for Jake to raise tomorrow with his doctor?
Yeah, Jake, Ken Anderson. I was just wondering if you had a PET scan or anything to tell you where the cancer is active at. Did you get scans recently?
Not recently. I mean,
Is
I
this
know
doctor?
it's in my spine and my pelvic girdle. I know that. If anything, it's just spread a little bit.
I mean, with a PSA of 6, you should be able to, it should light up pretty well on a scan. And I keep mentally going back to this Richard Wazer, or whatever his name is, Rick. He has this, he made this comment where today prostate cancer is a lot about playing whack-a-mole. You know, finding it and dealing with it, and then finding it again and dealing with it. Of course, you have to still take the first and second line therapies, but he made it a point to say that that's an approach that unfortunately is one we have to deal with because the immunotherapies just aren't working. So I'd ask for a PET scan if your insurance, Blue Cross, will pay for it as well if you can access it through your doctor, just to know where the activity is and see what's up.
Okay, well, I know. I'm not a big scan person.
Yeah, but you know, you need to know, you need baselines. When was the last time you got a scan, Jake?
2015, I think.
Oh man, you've got to get, you know, with metastatic cancer, you've got to get scanned every year at least. I mean, here's the problem, and this came up yesterday on Peter's call, and I'm going to say much the same thing I said on Peter's call. So often, metastatic prostate cancer is asymptomatic. You don't know what it's doing in your spine. It could be eating away at the vertebrae without giving you any pain. And we may need to take some action to do something there. And what you don't want to do is suddenly find that your vertebrae collapses.
Right. Yeah, I heard that.
In a wheelchair.
Right. I heard that conversation last night.
Right. I mean, well, if you haven't had a scan since 2015, you owe it to yourself to find out where it is. I mean, anybody else? My advice goes like water over a duck's back on with Jake, but he might listen to some other people who are on here, like Len. I mean, Len, what would you say?
I was just going to suggest, Jake, I know you don't like scans. Now, I recently had an Axumin scan, and it's pretty easy. The whole thing takes about 10 to 15 minutes. You're never completely enclosed in a tube like you are with an MRI.
Right.
I think you might be able to handle it with a little sedative. And of course, it's a very good scan. It picks up bone and soft tissue lesions. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is over in about 15 minutes. So.
Oh, well, when I had a PET scan back in 2012, and that was like, it took an hour. And I was okay for the first 25 minutes, and then I started freaking out. So 15 minutes is probably not bad. But then we're back to the insurance again. My insurance company didn't want to pay for the last one. And of course, things change.
Well, they'll pay for Axumin, for sure.
They'll definitely pay for it, Jake. They will.
All right.
But honestly, the scan I had like 2 years ago was a coiled rectal scan.
Oh, yeah. Endorectal
And it was
flow,
like,
yeah.
no one even told me about it, and I can understand. And I was in like a little tube, and I got to tell you, I went ballistic. I just was, and today the scans are much, like Glenn said, it was 15, 20 minutes. It was really not that big of a deal. I must admit, I closed my eyes, but it's not the same kind of a scan.
Yeah, well, I would say so. I had one last year just before my shoulder surgery, and it was like 20 minutes. I went all the way in the tube too. So, but Jake, what I do is I request like a Valium or something similar. And as Ken just said, I find that if I close my eyes before they even put me in the tube, even wear one of those like sleep masks, never open my eyes while I'm in the tube and just let them do it, I don't freak out. But if I open my eyes in the tube, or if my eyes are open when they start to put me in the tube, that's when I get the anxiety and everything. So,
You're talking about an MRI again, though, aren't you?
yeah, but it was the same thing. I had to get in the tube. So
Yeah. Well, PET scans are much bigger tube, and CT scans are like a donut. You pass through the donut. They're not bad either.
yeah,
But hey, guys, if you want to continue discussing this, please do. And it's not if even I got to leave. I don't want to be rude to my company. They have arrived. My pizza's going to get cold, but I'll hear it on a recording. So if you want to continue to discuss it. And Len, did you read that article or that paragraph?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's people many patients who become resistant to enzalutamide develop this PD-1 antigen, which is targeted by pembrolizumab or Keytruda. And so the 30% of the patients who were enzalutamide resistant had, when combined with Keytruda, all of a sudden 30% had excellent response. I think they said remarkable response, and then maybe another a couple of patients had partial response. So,
Right.
I mean, the odds there are better than your odds with Zytiga.
Right. Yeah. Zytiga is a 10% failure rate with after Zytiga.
Right. And the thing is, Jake, whatever you decide to do, from what I've been reading, they say if it isn't working in 2 or 3 months, move on. Don't waste any more time. Get a therapy that maybe will work.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, guys.
All right.
I got to go. I don't want to be rude, but I do need to leave.
Wait, it's
Have
Jake. Jake, can we talk about you now when you're gone?
Feel free. I can always listen later.
Thank you very much. Okay.
This
I
brought up
gotta remember to come back when the recording's over anyway, since I'm
Okay.
on the cloud.
Okay.
hello,
Okay.
hello.
Hello, Mr. Fish.
Hi. This brought up a question for me. So you know how they talk about how usually if you're on Zytiga or enzalutamide and you switch to the other one, enzalutamide or Zytiga, it's usually not it's often not effective or not much value from that.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
it seems like if you're talking about you start with Zytiga, later on, what if you move to this combination of enzalutamide with Keytruda? Seems like you'd be getting a benefit plus a 30% benefit later. Has anybody heard about the value of now going from one to the next? Maybe it can increase.
We could do. I mean, I think the numbers around, it's very low. I think it's around 10% of the people who, is that right, Len? Do you remember? I think it's around 10% that have a benefit. Switch across. I think one of the issues would be whether the abiraterone, I guess it depends what created this PD-1. If the enzalutamide resulted in the patient producing this PD-1, then it opens the door for us to use something like pembrolizumab. If abiraterone doesn't have that effect, then it's not going to make any difference. So what that would say is you're probably better off doing enzalutamide before you do the abiraterone. Do you understand my logic there? I don't know. I'm just trying to piece it together.
I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure that I don't really understand what you mean, because I'm also thinking that if enzalutamide and Zytiga have approximately equal benefit to begin as a second-line androgen, and you do, and then after the failure of those, when it fails after a couple of years, if you're lucky or whatever, then if you switch to the other, you only have that small potential for additional benefit, like you're saying. But if you would start with Zytiga, and then you might switch to enzalutamide, and only 10% chance it makes a big difference, but you may be liable to develop this PD-L1 or whatever they develop, and then add Keytruda, and then so you start with Zytiga and hold off on any additional drug. Just thinking about it.
Here's the thing that I don't know, and I haven't read the article. It's in my inbox, and I'm going to hopefully catch up on a flight on Thursday with a lot of this stuff. But here's the thing that's coming to me is that it may be that taking enzalutamide for a couple of months doesn't produce PD-1. You may have to be on the enzalutamide for a period of time. Len, in this article, did it indicate how long people had been on enzalutamide before it stopped working?
No. All it said was that they developed the PD-1, they expressed the PD-1 antigen after they became resistant to enzalutamide. And this was not enzalutamide after Zytiga. It was just enzalutamide as initial therapy. You develop resistance, you express the PD-1, then they add Keytruda, and 30+% of the guys have a significant response to the enzalutamide. They didn't mention Zytiga at all.
Right. So the issue is, if you took abiraterone and then you were on it for 18 months or 2 years, and then it stopped working, and then you switched to enzalutamide, and that stopped working, but it stopped working pretty quickly. In other words, within, say, a couple of months, whether that would be long enough to create the PD-1, and we don't know that, Larry. I don't think we can assume.
That's right. You're right. That's like guessing about science in advance. But another related question. I mean, have anybody heard of this? Any trials with Zytiga plus Keytruda? When Zytiga fails? Something interesting to hear about.
No, I have not. I have not. But we can certainly go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor this. That's all really I was curious about.
Peter,
I want to put something in here. So having finished a year on Zytiga and stopping not because of failure but because of a holiday, if I have to go back on treatment, I'm tempted to explore the apalutamide more because I'm intrigued with the preservation of the brain barrier than anything else. Because I, for sure, noticed the difference with Zytiga. I mean, it affected my memory for sure, and I don't think it's just age. And I think it's worth really. I mean, there's certain parts of us that we need to protect and cherish while we're still around, and not sacrifice, to the great god of cancer here. So that's just my 2 cents here. That I would explore that if I'm asked to go back on something.
That's a pretty good point. Well, anybody have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, this is Carl. I was on Zytiga for 6 months before my PSA started rising, and coincidentally or not, at the same time during my clinical trial when I had my robotic prostatectomy when it started rising, and then along with my genetic testing when I was diagnosed as being BRCA2 positive, so now I'm on the olaparib PARP inhibitor. So this IT guy, I definitely agree. Brain fog and memory, it's like, oh my God. And I'm a bit younger, I think. I'm 64, and you know, age-related or not, it's been a challenge, and that's one of the things I've actually put into my application for Social Security disability. Although, you know, I don't want to go into that. I've talked about that before. I'm still battling that battle. But I just wanted to go back to the PET CT scan for Jake. I had one recently. I had the Axplin PET scan. As Bill was saying, is a tube. Clearly, the PET CT scanner that I had used was similar to, like, whoever described it as a donut. It was not very long. I was on a platform that kept going through it, in and out, in and out. So there wasn't really any great length of time that I was claustrophobic inside a tube per se. And as I was looking on the website of the place that I had the procedure, the radiologist that I had it with there in central New Jersey, he had or has claimed that he has one of the few latest GE PET CT scanners in the country. At the time when I had it, which wasn't that long ago, he's only one of 4 in the country, and one is at Harvard University. So the degree of detail that it provides is incredible compared to other PET scanners. And as I'm looking at their website, which I just had up just to quickly, as he puts it in his site, they're at the forefront of technology, introducing GE's newest digital PET CT scanner, the GE Discovery M1. The scanner is the only true digital PET CT scanner in New Jersey, anyway, providing less radiation, faster scanning, and much improved image detail / resolution. So, you know, if that's something that is a possibility, maybe to search for that type of equipment.
Okay. I want to come back to something Larry Fisher asked, but does anybody want to comment on that? The new fangled scanner that Carl is talking about, or have any questions for him on it?
Yeah, Carl, are you saying GE as in General Electric?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's just a GE PET scanner.
Wait, let me just look again where he said it's GE Discovery M1. That's the, I guess, the model number or whatever. And it says it's the only true digital PET CT scanner, at least in the state of New Jersey. And he actually sat me down at his desk with his multiple screens, his computer screens, and it was just amazing how detailed it was. And this is just to compare it to an MRI or a bone scan. He says it's like you really can't compare it against those. It's just such state of the art.
So go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick shout out to Jake here again. If the choice comes down to Jake not having a scan because of his fears, or having a scan, I would suggest he try and convince them, give me the scan, but don't scan my skull. So his head never goes into the tube, and they get the rest of the body. And metastases to the skull are rare to begin with. So why not play the odds, and at least he'll get the scan done. I don't know if they would do it, but it seems reasonable to me.
Well, I think the bottom line is Jake's got to push for it, and you know, he's a little intimidated by the whole concept of scanning, but all of us want him to get scanned so that he knows where the disease is, because it would just be awful if, you know, he gets up one day with horrible backache and finds that his spine's collapsed. And that's what we want to avoid. And, you know, if he's had metastasis in his spine back in 2012 and he hasn't been scanned since, he owes it to himself to get some scanning. I think we all agree with that. Yeah. So,
I think the comment about keeping out of contraption is a great one. It definitely, I think if you ask, they'll do it.
okay. We missed the beginning. You said that Len's suggestion is a really good one. Is that what you said, Ken?
Yeah, just scan the abdomen, the, you know, head and neck. Not the head though. Keep the head out of the thing, because I do go mental when I go in if my eyes are open. But you know, if my head was out of the damn thing, I would be fine.
Okay, let me come back to Larry Fish. There is a trial, and this is of interest to everybody, I think. I just have been looking on clinicaltrials.gov, and I've put a link in the chat window. And there is a multi-drug study of pembrolizumab with combination therapies. So there are several arms, and it includes olaparib, docetaxel, prednisone, enzalutamide, dexamethasone, olaparib, and abiraterone. Olaparib at different doses. So, yeah, I mean, they are trying pembrolizumab with abiraterone and prednisone. Maybe abiraterone and dexamethasone. I'm sure those are the combinations. And olaparib. And those trials are going on in California, North and South, in New Jersey, in Washington, in this country. So, so in answer to your question, Larry, yeah, I guess they are trialing abiraterone with pembrolizumab.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks. I'm just reading it. I'm just looking at it now.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot of cohorts in here, and I can't absorb all of this as I'm moderating. But for any of you that are not on GoToMeeting and you want this reference, then please reach out to me or to Len, and we'll send it to you. I'm just going to bookmark it right now before I move on, so that I have it. Okay, so it's good stuff. We're talking about good stuff today. Scanning and different alternatives to second-line anti-androgens. I mean, this is all very helpful. And the people who aren't on the call who come in and listen a bit later. Let's move on. Len, I'm going to leave the heart one to the end and see how much time we have, okay? Les, we are going to go, I'll just tell you where we're going in case any of you need to get up and take a break. We're going to go Les, and then Bill Franklin, and then Carl Foreman, and then Peter. Okay?
Okay, this is Larry.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to comment on when we talked before, I was going to get some blood tests because I was very concerned about my very much lack of endurance, and I was hoping that the blood test would show something, that there was something missing that I could fix. Well, I just got the blood tests and saw the doctor yesterday, and no go. There's nothing that they can see that could be the cause of my extreme lack of endurance.
Well, it's like good and bad news, isn't it, Les? I mean,
Yes, right. There's nothing wrong, but you're no better.
Yeah. You know, I think that, and I'll let the other guys talk to this, but how long now have you been on a LHRH drug like Lupron?
Been on Lupron 1 year and 4 months.
Right. So, you know, you're at that sweet spot where, and I say this from my own experience, you're at that sweet spot where you really start to feel the fatigue. And I know that you do your gardening and everything else, but I really would like to encourage you to try and get your heart rate up on a daily basis for at least 15 minutes. And work it up from there. Start with 15 minutes, work it up to maybe 20, 25, 30. And I think you're going to find some improvement.
What would you suggest to get the heart rate up to? I used to get up to in the 130 range, but more recently, I get completely fatigued by the time I'm up to, 111 or something like that. And
so you're 69 plus one. You're 74, 75?
75, yeah.
75. So your guys, I don't know if you know this little algorithm, but your maximum heart rate is 145 approximately. That's the highest you could get to, 145. So 130 is very, very high for you. So you shouldn't even be looking at that. And again, I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm just telling you that probably if you can get up to the low end of 80%, so that would be, what was 80% of 116, isn't it? 80% of 145? I think it's 116. I'm still fairly good at, in my day, we had to do mental arithmetic at school. Do you guys remember those days? So I think that 116
You
is
nailed
probably
it. You nailed it.
Thank you.
Len used a calculator.
I did, yeah. Even this is a struggle.
I think 106. I couldn't do that when I was on Lupron, by the way, guys. Could not. I could do it before I was on Lupron, and I can do it again now, but I couldn't do it for about 5 or 6 years. So I think if you asked a trainer, they would tell you somewhere in that 110, 115 range is where you want to be. And how would I do it? Probably on an exercise bike, because I can ease up on that.
I've been doing it primarily when I go to the Y, I do it on the treadmill where I keep track of it. The thing is, if I'm on, up in that range, 112, 115, if I'm do that for more than about 5 minutes, my legs start feeling like rubber. I'm afraid I'm going to collapse.
Well, try doing it in a using a bicycle or a recumbent bike.
Yeah, I'll see if they've got something that some of those that they've got don't keep track of all your info.
Yeah,
I'll see if they've got some a bike related thing that keeps track of.
and failing that, you may have to go out and buy yourself a little belt that you put on that will tell you. But I just think that if you can get into a regular routine where you're getting your heart rate up to around 80% of max, you're going to see a huge difference. Anybody, I need some support from you guys. Can anybody help give a little testimonial here for Les to support what I'm saying?
Hey, it's Larry. Definitely, I can give you a testimonial to support. I'd also like to suggest doing intervals if you're having trouble keeping a steady pace for 15, 20 minutes. You know, I can do an hour of an intervals where I'm going like, well, I'm using a little higher ratio, but I'm in the like 100, 110 range, and then I go to the 120, 130 range. And over the years on Lupron, which is now approaching its 4th to 5th year, I find that I get a little slower and a little slower, but I keep on working with it. Very easy to manipulate intervals, even if you're doing 1 minute on and 1 minute off, or 1 minute on. And if you need to do 2 minutes off, but it's really interesting. It's kind of easy to control it and keep track of it. And the slide is very, very slow. Sometimes you get improvement. Anyway, I really think it saves me the ability to keep working. So I'm 100% with Rick.
Yeah. Les, do you understand what we mean when we say intervals?
Yes. Yeah. I do go to the Y 3 times a week. You know, it's not every day, but we do go 3 times a week, except the times when I'm, you know, shoveling snow or raking the yard or something. But so we do it on a somewhat regular basis. But I don't seem to be able to keep up that pace for as long as you were indicating. I just start to collapse.
Well, I can chime in here. I bought a recumbent bike for my home, so I can do it at any time I want. And when I first started, I had exactly the same reactions that you did. I mean, I could barely do 2 minutes, you know. But I found that if I just kept at it, you know, I would just do what I could and then come back maybe later in the day and try it again. You know, I was able to easily work up to half an hour. But it took about, I would say, I don't know, three weeks to get up that high. But you know, you'll naturally build up as you do it. And if you don't, then maybe there's something more serious that you need to talk to your doctor about.
Well, the thing is, I don't always do such things at the Y. I do stuff at home. I do it what I would consider equivalent of interval. Like I was today, I was out raking for a long time. You rake for a few minutes, rest, rake for a few minutes, rest, and I've been doing that, you know, all spring, almost every day.
And you're never able to see an improvement? You're never able to see an increase in stamina?
No. I did last year when I was chopping down a tree, that I was doing somewhat the same thing, that it took me about 2 weeks. I was chopping out the roots. That's why it took so long. I wanted to, you know, do it that way. But I did notice an improvement. If I was, you know, really stress it to the point of just barely crawl back to my chair and rest for a few minutes and get back and do it again and again and again and again. And I did notice by the time I got done with the tree, it had improved slightly. But I don't have that many trees.
The major complaint is the rubber, your legs become rubber, you feel like they're going to fall out from under you.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, the recumbent bike takes all the pressure off your legs.
Yeah.
And so that's really something important to consider. I also go to not only do I have the machine at home, but I also go to the gym, and I see guys, you know, they're on the regular bikes, and you know, I mean, they're just in far better shape than I am. And I really couldn't, you know, I could do a regular bike for very long. But on the recumbent, I was able to build up to a much longer period. And by the way, I had exactly the same experience. I'd like to play tennis. I can no longer run, and play a match. But I hit against the wall, and I for some reason I never get bored with that. because I'm always trying different things. And I had the same kind of problem, but I was able to slowly build up. But I can't go to the wall and hit very often, as often as I can with a bike at home. So repeating it is the real key thing. And like I say, if you, after an extended period of time, you notice no natural increase in your stamina, then you really need to talk to your doctor about it, I think.
Paul, how's your weight doing? Have you started to drop weight from this?
Well, after the when I went to the hospital for my pneumonia, I was so disgusted with my weight, and then also being sick. I ate nothing in the hospital for about 4 days. I mean, almost nothing. And the result is I lost 18 pounds, and I've noticed an enormous difference in my, I actually hit tennis balls on the tennis court for the first time in 2 years today. And my partner said he noticed, enormous differences in my mobility and ability to get the balls and things like that. So I'm working on it. I still have a long way to go to get to a good weight. I'm working on it. So I'm using a combination of partial fasting, keto diet, and small meals.
I'm so happy for you. I mean, because it's been such a journey with this weight issue, and now that you're seeing some progress and you've committed yourself to doing the exercise, and you're seeing some results, it must feel great.
Well, I do, but I just want to keep on losing the weight. But the other thing is that when I go to the Y, I work out on the machine. Well, first I lie on the flat, the table and do stretching for about 10, 15 minutes, and then I go to the machines. And, I feel so much stronger now. I mean, I can feel my core getting stronger. I can do things. I can pick up something off the floor now where I couldn't do that before. A lot of things are much better. So, yeah. So I just hope I can keep it up.
Well, we're really happy for you.
Yeah, just want to suggest that you have all of your meals catered with the crappy hospital food.
Well, yeah, I just didn't want to eat anything. I did order scrambled eggs one morning, and I took maybe 1 or 2 bites, and that was about it. But I had reached a point where I was so disgusted with my weight. I felt like I was carrying around a television set over my belt. I just hated myself. And when I got in the hospital, I just didn't want to eat anything. And I didn't realize it, but I was able to do that because I was in the bed I wasn't expending any energy. I was in the bed or the chair all the time. You can't starve yourself for 3 or 4 days and do normal activity. You're going to collapse. But because I was in the hospital, I was able to do that. And then I noticed, about a week after I was in the hospital, I had dropped 18 pounds to my my amazement.
It's great. But let's come back to Les. Les, I hope that we're giving you a little inspiration here. I do want to say one quick thing, and this is just anecdotal and what I noticed over the years, but I just don't think that the sort of exercise you do when you're gardening or working or what have you is equivalent to what you do when you go to the gym and you apply yourself for 20 or 30 minutes constantly. Even if, it can be constant exercise, it can be what Larry's doing, where it's an interval, 10 minutes on, 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 1 minute on, or whatever sort of interval you do. But I've known a lot of people who have said to me, oh, well, we get our exercise because we do stuff around the house. I think in particular of Frank Kelly, who would always say that, and other people. And it just isn't the same. I can't even explain why. I know it should be, but it isn't the same.
Well, the thing is, though, when I'm like raking, I do it until the point where I just cannot move anymore.
Right.
And rest. I don't know what more you could do when I'm at the Y. In fact, I don't even do that much. As far as being strenuous, I feel I do more at home than I do at the Y.
Well,
as far as extending myself.
Peter just took a mouthful of food. I'm watching him here, but I need Peter to chime in because Peter does a heck of a lot around his property. I know that. And he still exercises. So, you know, there's a guy who's doing both things. And exercise made a big difference to Peter when he first started talking to us many years ago. So, Peter, what would you say to Les about this discussion of sort of doing your gardening versus going to the gym, etc.?
I would do both. I mean, I broke my hip 7 weeks ago, Les. So, but I got on my lawnmower, my riding mower yesterday, and you know, was able to push the clutch in and everything. And I'm on 2.5 acres of jungle, but I was able to get some things done, and it feels good getting out and doing things. I go to physical therapy twice a week now because of the hip thing, and I get worn out if I push it too much at physical therapy. It's a little bit of a challenge for me. And, even going to the gym, I tend to do it. That's just me. And if I do it, I suffer a little bit the next day or even a couple of days. So I have to watch carefully with the gym. I don't have having a personal trainer is probably helpful. At physical therapy, I've got someone watching me, which is good. Yeah. Are you still, Les, are you still on any medications?
Well, I'm still on Lupron.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good.
For a year and 4 months now.
Well, that's going to have a big impact. I mean, that's good.
Yes, and I am doing, as you said, I'm doing both. I'm going to the Y 3 times a week, and then doing this other stuff either in the afternoon or the other days, you know, as far as raking or whatever. So I am doing both, but it's not as much improvement as I would like to see. In fact, there hasn't been any improvement. I'm just trying to keep up.
Yeah, well, that's what Lupron does. I mean, it knocks out your muscle ability, and you're just doing everything you can to keep up. You're not building muscle, and it's and you're inherently weak, and it's the pits. I mean, I totally get it. I understand. I've been there numerous times over the last 5 years. I'm waiting for my testosterone to come back now to see if I can get any improvement. It's not fun. But you got to keep doing something. You got to keep in the game. You can't stop, and don't judge yourself. You know, just do what you can.
Right. So, Les.
Well, I was hoping that there was something in my blood count or something that would help this. Okay, here, if we do this, we can make an improvement. Well, it was no such luck.
No.
So I think, Les, that try the Larry Fish approach because I really like that. Get on a recumbent bike. I mean, if you don't know your heart rate, it's okay because you'll feel it. You'll know when you're close to your maximum, and push yourself for, once you get close to that maximum, push yourself for 15 or 30 seconds and then ease off. And then, you can time yourself how long you ease off for, and then go to try to get up to that point again and then ease off. So don't avoid the recumbent bike because it doesn't have a heart rate monitor on it. You can still do it, but I think you're going to find, as Paul Frieder also said, that if you do this a few times and give yourself a month or so doing this regularly, it's going to make a difference. You're going to come back to us in a month and you're going to say, I am feeling a little better. That's my bet. But I am happy to eat my words. I'm not happy to eat my words. I will not be happy to eat my words, but I will eat them.
I'll just add one. Remember, 14 months out when I was on Lupron, reached out to a couple guys on Inspire, and they all commented about American ginseng. And I've told you this before.
Yes, yes, good suggestion.
About 14 months, I started taking 1,000 milligrams in the morning, and I still do it. And I take a 500 milligram tablet in the afternoon, the evening, and the difference was, it was pretty significant. I mean, it was noticeable for me. And I hike and bike and work out, but I felt fatigued in the afternoon. And just by taking American ginseng, and I don't know what's in the stuff, but I felt better. So does Les know, or does anyone know what's in American ginseng, or why it would have an effect on your nothing? I don't know. I'm not.
I've been taking it for years, and it was told to me by my oncologist. He told me to start taking it.
What is that again? I didn't quite catch what you're referring to.
I put it in the chat window for you. American ginseng.
Okay. All right.
It comes from Wisconsin.
Is it a particular brand?
I take pure, but I don't think it matters.
What
There's
brand
several
do you
different
take?
brands. I take the liquid. I take the liquid stuff.
Oh, Puritan's Pride. I did research, and that was one that they had marked pretty high as far as the manufacturer.
I'll put that in, Puritan's Pride. But I think the issue is that it should be the Wisconsin ginseng and not the Chinese ginseng.
Oh, it has to be American ginseng. No, you can't do the other one.
Right. Right, and most of the American ginseng comes from the state of Wisconsin. I don't know why, but it does.
I'd say I've noticed 5 or 40% increase in just how I felt.
Okay. Thank you for that. Les, you got that one down?
Yeah, I'll check. I've got as much down here as I. Oh, there it is. He's got it. Peter's got it.
Ginseng Master. Okay.
Okay.
All right, this is from my local health food store, so it's not a brand name, but you can get it any place.
Okay. All right. We have somebody who's joined us on the telephone. Who might that be?
And that might be Alan Moskowitz.
Hello, Alan Moskowitz. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry I couldn't join earlier, but I thought an hour was better than nothing.
Of course, we're always glad to hear your voice. Did you want to chime in with anything today?
Yeah, I could say a few words when when everybody else is finished. That'd be fine.
Okay, I got you on the list, and we're going to Bill Franklin. Mr. Franklin, floor is yours.
Oh, is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Yeah. Last week I was going to ask about. I was going to bring up the whole subject of the cholesterol, low testosterone, Lupron kind of connection. I'm not on Lupron anymore, but I do still have low testosterone after getting off of Lupron. But what happened was, as you remember me talking about a month or so ago, my cholesterol numbers were just way out of whack. The ones that were too high were way high, and the ones that are supposed to be, the ones that are too low were way low. And so she had me come back after a month and retest, and they're all pretty good now. They're still a little bit high, but I'm talking a couple of points over the scale that she uses versus like 169 for my triglycerides, which is a little bit like 2 points over her scale of 1 point over 168. And it was 440, last month, 30 days ago. So don't know if this was the whole thing, but part of it, I guess. I was really, really careful about sugar in my diet. I just basically, any external sugar whatsoever in my coffee, no sweets, no snacks, nothing. Just totally cut it out. I used, artificial sweeteners and stuff. And guys were talking about the exercise bike, I wanted to jump in every time you guys were talking about it. I have a recumbent bike at home, and I ride it. I usually like 3 days a week, 4 days a week. What I did is I upped it to, I was riding it 6 days a week for at least 30 minutes every day, and I get my heart rate up pretty high. I'm a little younger than some of you guys, but I don't feel young sometimes. And I just basically doubled the amount of time I spent on the exercise bike. I went from 3 days a week to 6 days a week, almost for the entire month. And, you know, the only thing I had done was I got my cholesterol rechecked, right? And my numbers were all good, or much, much better than they were. Like I said, triglycerides is still a little outside. Total cholesterol's like 5 points outside of her scale, but that's better than 50 points outside of her scale, right? So at 440 triglycerides, she's talking about, you know, stroke and heart attack. And I'm like, I feel fine. But I guess that's why it's called the silent killer, right?
Yeah, and it's also possible there was something wrong with the testing machine and the equipment. I mean, it may have had nothing to do with you. That can happen.
No, my triglycerides and other cholesterol numbers have been out of whack for quite a while.
What is your ratio? What's the ratio of your total correct cholesterol divided by your HDL?
Oh, I'd have to go look it up. But, okay, while I'm looking it up, I'll talk about the other thing. So you all know, if you don't know about the metastatic prostate cancer research project,
yeah,
which is taking place. A lot of people on our group are members of it. There's a similar project for overall general health, and it's called the All of Us Research Program. And it was actually designed by my company in partnership with Centers for Medicare, Medicaid, and National Institutes of Health. And their goal is to enroll 1 million people and collect all kinds of medical data. Of course, anonymized, you know, nobody can be pinpointed by, because of HIPAA and everything, nobody can be pinpointed by their data. And genomic testing is a huge part of it. So I thought I would mention that if anybody's interested in just enrolling in it. It's doesn't cost anything, and you can search it on the web. All of Us Research Program is what it's called. If you go to my corporate website at MITRE.org, you'll probably get it on a search at MITRE.org also.
So it's called All of Us
Research Project.
Research Project. Okay.
Primarily Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. National Institute of Health is involved. In my company, we run the federally funded research center for CMS, so they were heavily involved in the whole setup and everything.
Okay.
And now, Rick, you asked me that question. I can't even find my. I was going to say I can't find my app that shows me all my lab results, but I did find it actually. Now I got to remember how it works. But which you asked about?
Well, the total cholesterol is a function of the components, and some people like myself have very, very high HDL, which is good because that's the good cholesterol, but that pushes up my total number. So
yeah,
so it's good to look at what's called the ratio, which is the total cholesterol divided by the high density lipids.
So my total cholesterol was 199 if we round that to 200, and my HDL was 44. So that's about a ratio of
4.5 to 1. Yeah. So, you know, 4.5 to 1 is not bad. It's not great. But what's going to happen is that, and was that in the most recent one, or was that in the one that was so screwy?
That's the most recent one. That's
okay.
the good one. So.
Okay. Well, I think what you'll see is as you keep doing what you're doing, that ratio is going to move more towards 3 to 1. And maybe lower.
It was 6 to 1 on the previous one. So
that's right. So this is what you're going to look at. I mean, my ratio is usually between 2 and 3, and very occasionally under 2. So that means that my total cholesterol is around about 230, and my good cholesterol is anywhere between 80 and 100. But my total's never going to be that low.
Right.
As high as they are, and that's a good thing to have.
So what's the science? What's the science behind that ratio? Is that something
well,
you researched?
A lot of doctors will look at the ratio rather than the absolute number. The ratio is more relevant than the absolute number because the ratio takes into account the level of your high density lipids.
Right.
You know, I mean, if you have a cholesterol of say 150 and your good cholesterol is only around 30, that's not so good. Even though the overall is good, it's not that healthy because it's the high density lipids that are like the ball bearings that roll through the arteries and pick up the plaque.
Right.
And so if you don't have much of that, you're not getting rid of the plaque. So that's the, as I understand it, in my. Now I was going to say one other thing to you, Mr. Franklin, which is that if you learn how, and this is a segue into telling everybody that we launched our new website, a soft launch on Monday morning. And I think we're all pretty proud of it. It looks great. It's not perfect. There's still a bunch of little bits and pieces we have to do. And, you know, once we get that done, we'll tell the world that we've got a new website. But all of you can go to ancan.org and you can look at the new website, and hopefully you'll be as impressed as my board members have been, who really didn't see much of it at all until about 2 weeks ago. But what I was going to say to you, Mr. Franklin, is that if you join us and learn how to do WordPress, then I would love for you to add all of us research project as a link on the new website.
Yeah, I can do that.
There you go. So, okay. So who else has got something to say to Bill about cholesterol?
Well,
Bill,
I just want to say congratulations, Bill.
Hold on a minute. Len first and then Peter.
Yeah, I just wanted to say congratulations. That's a remarkable turnaround. Shows what you can do if you commit yourself to exercise and the right diet, cutting out the sugar and probably fats too. The ratio that they look for, that Rick was referring to, is 4 to 1 or better. So you're just a teeny bit above the 4 to 1 mark. So that's pretty good. I wouldn't worry about it.
All right.
That's
thanks.
It.
Yeah. And I will say that, you know, increasing the exercise and doing that, it's not always easy because of my low testosterone level. I mean, it's not as bad. Of course, it's not as bad when I was on Lupron, but it's still a challenge. It's not like it was in the old days, pre prostate cancer. Peter, you asked if,
you know what,
I
Bill?
ate a lot of bread.
My T levels are really high, and yet I still don't feel as energetic as I think I should feel, and that as energetic as I was before my diagnosis, or before I started treatment. So I think we do lose something that we never get back in the way of energy once you've been on hormone therapy for any extended period of time. I don't know. What do you think, Rick? You've been on it for a long time, or you were on it for a long time.
Well, I was only on it for 2.5 years. So, I mean, compared to Larry Fish, or there are other guys on this, and Jake and some of the other guys who have been on it for years and years, it's relatively small. But I still think that I think you keep doing what you're doing, Bill, and you're going to notice a huge difference. Peter, what did you want to add to the conversation?
Yeah, after the last conversation we had a few weeks ago about testosterone coming back, I went through and looked at for the last 5 years, because I've been on and off ADT several times, and I noticed that the first time I went off, my testosterone came back in 3 months. The second time I went off, it came back in 4 months. Now it's about 3.5 months. I'll do a blood test at the end of this month. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
It hasn't budged yet, but we'll see. I'm hopeful. But we'll see. So I had another question. You guys eat a lot of bread? Because I've noticed that you know, I don't know what I know that sugar and fats and all that stuff affects cholesterol, but I suspect a lot of bread and carbohydrates has something to do with it too. Because I cut out a lot of that stuff. And, hardly ever eat it. It makes a difference for me.
Yeah, well, I don't eat a lot of bread per se, but I think on the carb side, I'm a little higher than most because my wife's a vegetarian, so we eat a lot of vegetarian meals, which are higher in carbs and fiber. Probably get more carbs than might be recommended just because of the high vegetarian content. I'm not a vegetarian. I do eat meat, but we eat vegetarian a lot just simply because my wife is, so.
Hey, Len, what did you say your testosterone level was up to? Len?
Who's that addressed to?
Len, yeah, you. What you said your testosterone level was up. What was it up to? What level?
It bounces around between 650 and 800.
Good for you.
Okay, that's getting up there. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't feel as energetic as I think I should feel.
Well, I'd like the opportunity to see if I feel energetic with that level.
Mine's going up too. It's up to 9.
Has your energy gone up, Les?
Not noticeably.
I feel you. I know when I was on Lupron, mine was always 7, 9. So
pretty good. I'm less than 3.
Well, that's me. I'm 2.
But yet we're all here.
Anyone? That's right. Anyone else have any suggestions, thoughts on cholesterol or testosterone coming back before we move on to Carl Foreman?
Yeah, with cholesterol, I'm pretty sure it's diet and exercise. It's probably the best medicine. But with testosterone, I don't know, guys. I'm hitting my head against the wall here. It's supposed to come by itself when I get off the Lupron, but.
Are you taking a statin?
Carbs.
No, I am not.
No carbs. No bread.
No carbs
at all.
No.
And
my wife is also Japanese, so we eat a lot of rice too. So
no
if
rice.
I cut rice out of my diet, I'd cut out about 50% of my food source.
Yeah.
Is it brown rice or white?
We eat both types. Probably about 50-50. She eats more white rice than brown. I probably eat a little bit more brown rice than white rice.
Bill, I would say, and we've had this discussion many times, and there are definitely two sides, but I would definitely consider a statin.
Yeah.
And I've been taking a statin since I was in my 30s. And I recently switched about a year ago to rosuvastatin because it went generic. And so I can eat grapefruit, which is great, which is terrific since I have a grapefruit tree outside my door here. I would talk to your doctor about it. Just have a chat with your doctor about taking a statin.
All right.
Now we just thought it wouldn't be your medical oncologist because they don't know anything about that. You'd have to talk to your general practice doctor.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's the one that's doing all my cholesterol testing and everything.
Yeah. Talk to her and ask her. Okay, Carl.
Hello.
We're on to you.
Okay, just to add to the statin discussion, you and I, Rick, are on the same. That's the generic of Crestor that I have started or restarted a few months ago. And in doing my ongoing research of my disease or our disease, I had found several discussions about the benefits for prostate cancer patients of having a statin because it deals with inflammation. And inflammation is very important to be controlled to help control the cancer. So that's one of the main reasons I'm on. And I was at 200, which now is considered high. I'm at 147 after 3 months on the generic of Crestor. So it's working nicely for me. Two other points that I wanted to discuss. First, I did have, I'm coming to the end of my Provenge treatment. This morning I had my third round of leukapheresis, and on Friday we'll have my final infusion of Provenge. The leukapheresis, although it took somewhat less than the last two times, it just felt like it was taking forever. Maybe because it is the last time that I will have gone through this, hopefully for this particular type of procedure. But last week I also had an appointment with my optometrist, a follow-up appointment, and she did a whole review. She said, wow, your retina really looks so healthy, and she said that your vision has dramatically improved. And I talked about the various medications I've been on. She thinks that is possible because of the immunotherapy, although who knows. But whatever other medications I'm on, the PARP inhibitors, previously the Zytiga, but she said there's been such a big improvement. Now I need a new set of glasses, which last year I paid about $600 for from my progressives, and now I need a whole new set of glasses that I should be picking up next week. So didn't know if anybody else had experienced any improvement in eyesight as a result of their treatment.
Well, let me just give you a little tip here. If anybody needs glasses, I strongly recommend Zenni, Zenni, Zenni.com. And these specs that I'm wearing, some of you can see them. I have a pretty heavy prescription, and these are progressive, and with the lens and everything else, I paid about $130 for them from Zenni, and I would endorse them. So there are ways to get less expensive progressive lenses and get really good eyeglasses at the same time.
I wish I talked to you last week.
Well, you didn't mention it to me. It's Zenni.com, and yeah, and if anybody want to put me in as the referral, I get $5, and I'll tell you what, I'll if I get $5 each time from a referral, I'll put half of that back into ANCAN. So. But I really do, I do recommend them. And I had some issues the first set they sent me because the glasses were way bigger than they looked. But then I found out how you actually can just see how big the frames are. You can figure it out. But they're pretty good. And I would recommend them. So,
Okay, so
these, by the way, 130 odd, and these are not only progressive, these are
transition?
photograph. Yes, transition as well.
Wow, what a deal.
You know.
Costco is similarly cheap.
Yeah. I mean, those are the points I want to talk about. So.
That's it. Your You wanted to tell us that your eyes are getting better and you finished your Provenge and you're on Crestor.
Right.
And did you switch to Crestor from something else before?
Yes. Atorvastatin I was on previously, and now I'm on the Crestor.
Yeah, I was on simvastatin. And isn't it, I don't know, maybe you don't like grapefruit. I love grapefruit, but has it made a difference to you?
I've stayed away. I continue to stay away from the grapefruit, but no rhyme or reason.
Oh, well, I won't be sending you any grapefruit off of our tree then, Mr. Foreman.
But I guess related to the grapefruit situation, when it was at the PCRI conference with you guys and visiting the exhibitors and the life extension exhibit, I was over there, and they said the one thing that they would recommend to prostate cancer patients was this modified citrus pectin. I have been taking it for the past several months. I hope it's helping, but
who knows? You know, it sort of crops its head up every so often on the forums and in the discussion here, and I don't even know what the theory behind it is, but yes, there are people with prostate cancer who take it. I don't know if it makes a difference with advanced prostate cancer. Does anybody have any idea why this pectin, this citrus pectin is supposed to work, or how it works?
Nope. I knew once upon a time, but I've forgotten it. But I have it somewhere. I could look it up if anybody's interested.
Yeah, this is Alan. I mean, if you're talking about pectin and cholesterol, is that what I heard? Was that the question, the mechanism?
Two separate topics.
I'm sorry?
Two separate topics.
Separate topics, Alan, but if you can bring them together, that would be very interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know what to say. I mean, pectin is one of those complicated molecules that actually binds a lot of things, and cholesterol is one of them. It just ties it up, makes it unavailable to be absorbed by the body. It's in the same way that soluble fiber, such as from oatmeal, that oat fiber, which is soluble, it also binds cholesterol, probably amongst some other molecules. It just ties it up and just lets it go out of the body without being metabolized, absorbed and metabolized. So it's sort of a structural phenomenon in the nature of it. I'm not sure that's useful to anyone, but that's basically how it works.
Well, you know, of course, that would make some sense, because if the pectin brings down the cholesterol and there's less cholesterol available to produce testosterone, and we know that happens. That's why abiraterone works. So,
okay.
You know, I just realized something, that you and Carl are both in New Jersey. I forgot about that. So I don't know how far apart you are. Where are you, Carl?
Monroe Township, just outside of Princeton, in the center of New Jersey.
Well, okay. You couldn't be any closer, because I'm in Monroe Township also.
Well, we have to get you guys together.
Very interesting.
I'll connect you, Carl. Alan has been talking to us for a long time. I think back to about 2015, I think.
Yeah, that could be right. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll send you guys a note afterwards and connect you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I have you living in Sukasuna. Is that right?
In where?
Sukasuna, New Jersey.
Yeah, I used to live there. Now I'm in Monroe.
Oh, okay. I better update you. Now you're in Monroe Township.
Yeah, I've been here 2 years, almost to the day. Yeah.
Oh. And are you? You know, I've never asked you before. Are you a scientist, Alan?
Yes, I am. In fact, I was a food scientist, which is why I know about, the oatmeal and peck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So now we know who to ask if we got food science questions.
exactly correct. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. 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 All right. Well, at least if nothing else, we've connected two of our participants today, and we always like to do that. So, Carl, if we're done and no one else would like to say anything with respect to what we've talked about, let's move on to Peter.
Okay. Sometime during the week, you guys are probably like me. You get dozens and dozens of articles and journal things and synopsises of stuff. I can't remember which one I was reading, but the subject came up of in my situation, oligometastatic, and whether to treat or not. When you have systemic disease, when you know it's in the system, and you know it's going to pop up someplace. Like in my situation, I had it radiated with proton beam at a very low level, 2 spots in my abdominal area, 2 lymph nodes. And the article was essentially saying that, do we really know this is doing any good? It might make you psychologically feel better, like you're getting on top of things, and the doctor might feel like they're making progress. But generally speaking, once it's in your system, things are on. And I think it was Ken that talked about whack-a-mole early on in our conversation. Do you keep hitting things? Do you let them get? Do you let it get larger? Do you just do the radiation or the radiation treatment when things get to the point where they're causing pain or discomfort? I don't know if there's any clinical studies that have ever been done on this, because these new high-tech scans are so new that there's probably no studies that show the benefit of radiation at a very early time for advancing metastatic disease or metastatic. I don't have the answer to it, but it intrigued me. It just made me think that, I think that for me, the benefit might be more psychological than actually advance. So I just want to open that up.
I'm going in next month for a biopsy and a pathology report to see whether or not, in fact, the spot on my prostate that showed up on the PET scan is actually active. And if it is active, I'm going to go in and whack it. I'm going to whack it with a needle-guided radiation therapy through my anal canal into the prostate, and they're just going to inject some radiation in and try to kill the cancer. And if it kills it, it should lower my PSA. So I'll know real quick whether or not it actually works. Because that was the only spot that showed up on the PET scan.
So the question to you, Ken, is that given that you have significant disease, and given that if we nail these spots as they come up, we do recognize, and this whack-a-mole expression is not something new at all, even though Wasserstug used it a couple of weeks ago. I mean, we've talked about this game of whack-a-mole as long as I've been moderating groups. Do you think whether it makes a difference or not, it makes you feel better, it makes you feel brighter? about how you're treating your disease?
No, I would say it is more than an effort to go after it. I mean, does it make you feel better? I don't know. I mean, the fact is, you have to stay on ADT and second light androgen, so you're still whacking the testosterone. My testosterone is ridiculously low, so, and I feel it every day, and I know my life is different, and it probably will be until I die. But with whack-a-mole that's going to get rid of the spot disease from time to time, then it's whack. I'll feel better about it, yes. I will, because not doing anything and just letting it do its thing, and I won't feel good about that.
Okay. And I think, Peter, isn't that what you're getting at?
Yeah, right. That's why I chose to get, a PSMA scan and treat things at a very early point. But I know I'm not curing things. I know that that I'll be dealing with this again. I mean, right now I'm not on ADT, but I know that things will come back, and they'll pop up someplace else. And I mean, I guess I will treat it when it comes back up again, and not wait until it causes me pain or discomfort or gets large or whatever. I think I'll try to keep hitting it when it's small. And I don't know whether this is extending my life or not. I guess, I mean, I like to think it is, but I don't know if there's ever been any trials, studies about, whether this extends life or not. I don't know.
Well, there was, and I've referenced this, and I keep wanting to put it into our newsletter, but I always have other things, so I keep putting it off. But the study that I saw the other week on neurosis, and they did do a study, and they found that people that with prostate cancer who were more neurotic had worse outcomes.
Right, I saw that.
You saw that? Yeah.
Yes.
And that was not, that was a lesser disease. I think it was largely people who had primary outcomes rather than recurrent and advanced disease. But it was a pretty interesting article. What did you make of that, Peter?
I agree with you. I mean, I see people with pretty low-grade disease who are very neurotic about it, and and I think they're just making themselves sick. I mean, I don't know. I think it's true with any kind of illness that being neurotic about it will it just snowballs, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a healthy attitude, makes big strides.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anyone else have any thoughts on this?
Hey, Peter,
Yeah.
smoke. Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ken.
No, I was just telling Peter to smoke pot. So yeah, it really.
I was going to say that I remember listening to a podcast from NPR not too long ago about the placebo effect, and it can be enormous, shockingly enormous, even in terminal illnesses like cancer. People would have remarkable responses to a placebo because they thought they were getting the real medication. So yeah, be positive by all means. Yeah, Peter, I wouldn't be thinking, well, it's going to come back. That doesn't help you any to be thinking that way. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. So, just don't think about it coming back. If it comes back, then you'll deal with it. But I wouldn't want you to be thinking, okay, well, I whack-a-mole this one, but I'll just have to wait for the next one. Who knows? Maybe the next one won't come. And in any case, you are definitely, even if it isn't curative, you're definitely buying yourself time to the point where maybe they will have some sort of better treatment or a cure. Now, on the other side of the coin, I believe Alan Adele is not a big fan of that spot radiation approach, but he's usually pretty data-centered, but I don't really know if he did have data to back him up on that. Do you know, Rick?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm sure. My guess is he does. And Peter, your assignment.
Yeah, I'd be happy to
go the static. Your assignment is to engage Alan this weekend and ask him where the studies are on whether oligometastatic spot radiation is good or bad, and then to report back to us.
For sure. So I just want to make it clear, I'm not morose about this. I mean, I'm not giving up at all. I'm just more curious than anything else. That, whether life is extended or not. I mean, I don't think there's any studies at this point yet. I don't think they've done it.
Like you said, Peter, I don't think they had these scans today that they didn't have them before.
Yeah.
I don't think they've done any, analysis of whether or not being in and whacking. But you have to think. I have to think that it is.
Yeah, I think so too.
Come visit you in Maui, though, Peter.
What's that?
I'm going to come to Maui and visit.
Do it. Or we get overrun with tourists.
Oh, I'm in front of thanks.
Let me just tell you, Peter, that Ken travels with his own tent.
Good.
Oh, I rented a hip van in Australia, and I had a hell of a time.
What did you do? You rented what, Ken?
I call it a hippie van, a Volkswagen van, and just can't. And on the
okay.
Did they let you set your tent up in the parking lot at MD Anderson?
I never tried it. Sorry to say, I don't know that they.
Ken, I'm just thinking for MD Anderson, you could just hitch up one of your Airstreams and tow it over to Houston and stay in it.
That I could do. That.
Okay. All right. And we could put some big stickers on the side for ANCAN and get your PSA tested, and I don't know what else.
Well, I have to tell you, this week is my week to close my office. I've been moving.
Oh, wow.
I'm retired about it.
Okay.
I have a quick question for Len. Did you ever do a follow-up scan after the Aximon?
Well, I sure have tried, Peter, but the NIH has had me on a waiting list for going on 4 months. And I found out that Yale has the same scanning agent and very, very little wait time, but they won't take me unless my PSA is 2.0. And it's not there yet. Well, when I go back up to Connecticut on April 18, I'll have another check. But the last time it was done, it was 1.2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here because we got 10 minutes and I want to give Alan some time for whatever is on his mind. Conversation.
Okay. So I spoke to you all, well, certainly some of you, a few weeks ago, and just in one sentence, basically, I've had prostatectomy, I've had radiation, had 6 months of ADT concurrent with the radiation, and my PSA has continued its march upward, even though it was, down to 0 after surgery and for a while during the radiation. And so I had the scan at NIH, one of the PET scans, didn't find anything, and my PSA in March was up to 1.3, I think 1.3. And so I see a doctor at Sloan Kettering. He's not one of the well-known hotshots, but I've been consulting with him, and we monitor the PSA and discuss things. And I did ask last time about seeing another doctor, and I got good advice, which said, yeah, why don't you go see one of the ones on my list? And I had selected Dr. William O. at Mount Sinai. And I recall folks on the phone saying that, it might be hard to get an appointment, it might not be hard. Anyway, surprisingly, I called on a Wednesday and I got an appointment the following Monday. And so I said, well, I ought to take it because don't know when the next one will be. And they were eager to get me in that slot. I had to send them all my data. And I met with him, and also he has a doctor who's a research fellow by the name of Dr. Patel. And so I did he was pretty good. I mean, I liked him. He volunteered, actually, the idea of Aximin, which is my plan when PSA goes up a little bit more. He did say that Mount Sinai was one of the hospitals that validated the methodology, and he said they'd had success finding lesions at PSA as low as 0.5. Now, I was sort of surprised at that, and I questioned him. I said, look, my understanding is you needed something closer to 2. And he said, no, they have a very good technique. Don't know whether that's entirely true, but, maybe it was a little bit of a marketing pitch. I can't really tell. Anyway, he certainly was knowledgeable. He liked the idea of the Aximin. He even said if you find a lymph node, they would radiate it or potentially do surgery. And he bragged about someone there who they got in relatively recently, a guy named Dr. Weichman, if I got that right, who does a lot of work for urology and bladder cancer, and he is an expert at lymph node removal. And so I felt encouraged. That was good. He told me to keep away from calcium, not overdo it. And when I questioned him, he said, he says, I don't know whether it's the calcium is a mineral or it's dairy calcium, etc. He just said, you need some, but don't overdo it, so I've cut back on some of my calcium because maybe I was overdoing it. And so all in all, I will see my doctor at Sloan Kettering in June, and really I'm not sure yet whether I would switch or not. I might sort of maybe take him up on the idea of doing Aximin at Mount Sinai. It's more inconvenient than doing it somewhere locally. On the other hand, it's not just doing the test, it's about reading it and doing the test with a high level of quality. So I have to mull that over. I like Sloan Kettering, maybe because I like the name, and it's maybe a more robust prostate cancer program than maybe Mount Sinai, which I would say is maybe have a few good people, but maybe less robust. And I'll certainly take thoughts on it from anyone who has a comment on that. So that's the first piece. Maybe we can just discuss that for a minute, and then I have a question afterwards on something else.
I'm going to give that to Len because he's made the same switch.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, Alan. This is Len. Who was the medical oncologist at Sloan?
I have a guy his name is Dr. Yu Chen, Chen.
Okay. Yeah, so I switched from MSK to Mount Sinai with Dr. O. I was seeing Dr. Danila at MSK.
Okay.
I found Dr. O to be much better for me. He gave me plenty of time to ask questions. He discussed options, whereas Danila wasn't like that at all. I had the Axman scan at Mount Sinai. When my
Okay.
PSA, yeah, it was at 0.8, and its findings were inconclusive.
Okay.
So they had recommended a follow-up MRI to see if possible. I think there was I can't remember the exact wording they used, something like heterogeneous. Inconclusive. I can't remember, but
All right.
yeah. So, I mean,
Okay.
I wouldn't be in a hurry to get the Axman scan. How fast is your PSA rising?
Well, you know, this last pump sort of lowered the doubling time to about 6 or 7 months. It was up at roughly 11 months over the past couple of years. So I'm not in a rush. I'm happy to wait for the PSA to go up. He actually, said he would, you know, he would be happy for letting the PSA going up to between 5 and 10, as long as the doubling time is not too fast, versus Sloan Kettering said he'd be okay around 4 or 5, again with the same constraint on doubling time. So he was happy to go higher. I mean, I would say he offered more depth of knowledge, which is what impressed me about him. I don't know if you got the same sort of feeling.
Yes. Yeah, he's on top of everything that's in research and in clinical practice. He's very up to date, very smart guy, and and I think he's funny. You know, I mean, I enjoy my sessions with him. He's just a great guy. Yeah, I agree with both of the opinions you got about, since your doubling time isn't that rapid. Yeah, I wouldn't be in any rush. I wait till at least 2.0.
Yeah.
And if you're comfortable go beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty consistent. All right. That's very helpful. They did talk about, now Dr. Rowe didn't mention it, but his assistant talked about a pilot study they're doing with some leukemia drugs, I think it was, for people with with recurrence, and they took me through it. It's on the clinical trial government website. I wasn't particularly wild about it. I don't think I'm ready for that, but they were looking for a very small scale trial. And it's underway, but they're only taking 20 people. They have 8, but I don't think I'm not interested, although they, I'm sure, are interested in me. Okay, so
Alan, do you recall what the drug was that they were testing?
Yep, I have it here, and I can give you the the number as well. Let me give you the number first. It's NCT, like nickel car tiger, 035 72387. And the drug is a pilot study of 5-AZA, which is a abbreviation for some long name drug, and ATRA, ATRA. Yeah, so you can read about that. It's fine. Okay, so those are very helpful comments for me. It'll give me some more pause. I will see my Dr. Chen in June, and then after that, I'll make a decision and maybe switch in September.
Okay.
Good.
Hold on before you get to your second question. I just want to check if there's anybody else that has any input on this Memorial Sloan Kettering, Mount Sinai, Dr. O. Is there anyone else that wants to say anything about that?
Yeah, this is Carl. As for me, and I had mentioned in a previous meeting that I had tried to get an appointment with him, and I was told I would have to wait 3 months, but that was great that he got it next week. I went around because you and I live in the same neighborhood, Alan, that I went to Sloan Kettering, I went to Columbia Presbyterian, I went to Mount Sinai, I went to the Abramson Cancer Center in Philadelphia. I ultimately ended up at the Cancer Institute of New Jersey in Rutgers. Everyone was telling me similar things. There are some nuances and differences with their thought processes of how to proceed, but I became most comfortable with this institution. And also, by the way, tomorrow afternoon, from 4 to 7, they are having actually a seminar, which you may want to attend since you're so close. It's a hot topics in prostate cancer from 4 to 7 at the Institute. So you may want to do that. But also, the person that I had my Axman PET scan, and my PSA was 0.55, and I still had the Axman PET scan, got it approved by insurance, and the radiologist is on the staff of Mount Sinai. He's an associate professor of the medical school, Dr. Kranicki, and he's located in Manasquan, which, again, for you would be pretty convenient.
Yes, I did look him up. I did. He seemed to have a pretty good operation there. I was a little leery. He seemed like a solo practitioner. Is that correct, or is he the main one, or are there other folks there?
No, he is the main one, but when you look at his credentials, and I've spoken to people, one of the oncologists that I've had a second opinion on, Dr. Mark Stein at Columbia Presbyterian, was one of his students at Mount Sinai Medical School, and he was raving about him. So, excellent choice.
All right, so that's good and certainly more convenient than going into the city.
Yes, and the story that I had given too was that when I shopped around for my PET scan, where I was already told initially insurance wouldn't cover it, I went to him. They said, well, we have a self-pay option. They said that the self-pay option is $1,600, but hold on, we're going to talk to Dr. Kranicki. 5 minutes later, he said he'll do it for $1,100. So again, he works with his patients.
All right, so that's good. Okay, excellent. Okay.
I'll connect you after the call. I'll make sure I connect you in case you guys want to go together to this event tomorrow night. Go ahead, Alan.
That'd be good. Okay, one quick question. Aside from cancer, one of the issues that I sort of have to deal with is this urinary frequency or urgency. It's not so much frequency, but urgency. It's all controllable. It's very much dependent on what I eat. So I've got to be very careful on certain fruits, which tend to trigger it. They'll make me get up during the night twice instead of once. So I take oxybutynin, and then it works somewhat. And I thought I would ask if anyone had to deal with this sort of thing and if they had some different approaches. I've had another drug in the past, wasn't very useful, and it's pretty much I would say it's a minor nuisance, and it came all about from the radiation is what triggered it. Didn't have the issue after surgery. Any comments or thoughts?
Well, there are a number of drugs. Since I don't talk about them very often, I'm hurriedly seeing if I can find my list. There's one particular drug there, which was when it came out about 3 or 4 years ago, pretty expensive. It may have well gone down in price.
Yeah,
and
probably Mirbetriq.
Well, say it again.
It's called Mirbetriq. I think it's MYB or MYRB, ending the letter Q.
Yeah, that's what I was going to recommend to you. Have you tried that?
I tried it a number of years ago. I don't know whether it would have worked, but I tried it twice, and I ended up with various stomach pains and irritation. So for some reason, I don't tolerate it well. So I have crossed that one off the list. In fact, the clinical data, at least back then, it was not so good. I mean, it was really marginally better than a placebo. But nevertheless, the side effects for me were made it a non-starter.
Let me turn this one over to Peter, because Peter deals with this a lot more often than we do here on his low and intermediate risk call, and he's
Right.
also had to deal with it for himself. So Peter, what thoughts do you have for Alan?
Well, my personal experience is, I mean, I know I'm messed up. You know, since the onset, I get up a lot. Several times a night, maybe 3, even 4, sometimes 5 times a night. I'll get up.
Right.
I'll go right back to sleep. So it doesn't get used to it. But in my personal experience, I have noticed. I'm not a big drinker. I'm not a beer drinker. I'll have a glass of wine once every couple of weeks, or a mixed drink. I'll share a mixed drink with my friend if we go out to dinner. I notice if I drink a little bit of alcohol, that evening, I might get up once or twice. I don't know. It has an interesting effect. I don't know if it's relaxing my bladder so it empties fully. I'm not sure what's going on, but I noticed that alcohol has an effect on cutting down my nocturnal needs of getting up and emptying my bladder.
Okay, what about during the daytime? Do you have those, I call them bladder spasms or urgency? Do you get that?
Not anymore. There are bladders. It's a muscle.
Sure, I know.
Because of all the treatment we're going through and everything, it's gotten harder. It doesn't have the elasticity to have.
Yeah. Do you still do Kegel exercises?
Yeah, that might help. Any kind of exercise would help, but this is an internal organ, so it's the muscles inside the bladder that are messed up. And whether I've heard doctors talk about the fact that there's no going back. You're going to live with this. I personally don't want to. I want to stay away from drugs. I don't want to take drugs to deal with it.
Yeah, I try not to take it too much. When it gets out of hand, then I got to do it for a few days. But for me, it's very much diet related. I could go days with minimal issues at all. And if I eat too much, if I have watermelon is particularly bad for me. Cantaloupe, not honeydew, cantaloupe, an apple is very bad. Certain things tend to trigger it more.
How much coffee do you drink?
I drink only decaf coffee. Haven't found any correlation with that. I have no caffeine. That'll make it worse. I can tolerate a little, but not on a daily basis.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Those kind of things are diuretics for sure.
Peter, are you still doing Kegels? And what do you find with your guys on the low risk call who continue their Kegels after their surgery?
Most of them are doing it for erectile function. Now they're not really doing it for urinary control.
Interesting.
Rehab their penis for to get some erectile function going on in combination with Viagra or something.
I didn't know that Kegels would help that. That's the first time I've heard that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's very good. All right, well, that's helpful to an extent. I have to, I may have to go see another urologist perhaps. I mean, I don't feel like trying the whole laundry list of drugs because oxybutynin and some of these other ones that pretty much all work the same way, except for the merbetric. I think that's the only one with a different mode of action, from what I recall.
The big expert in this field is up at Sloan Kettering. I think he's still there. What's his name? He's Irish.
He's more erectile function, I think.
But he'll deal with the whole thing though. He's pretty savvy on the whole deal.
Oh, John
Mulhall, Mulhall.
Yeah,
John Mulhall. Very good.
Yeah, I've read some of his So one of his books, I hear he's retiring. You know, he's not retiring. The other guy is. Mulhall's he's at Sloan Kettering, right?
Right.
Yeah.
If you're
Okay.
if you're in the system, go see him.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else on the call who wants to make any contribution regarding urgency issues? Okay.
All right. Fine.
Okay. Well, we're a little over time, not too much, but we covered an awful lot of ground today. And like I say, go look at our new website. If you see anything that you think isn't working or needs changing, let one of us know and we'll add it to our to-do list. Peter and I are off to Dallas on Thursday, along with Alan Edel, who will be at the same conference. There's 150 patient leaders from all types of diseases, not just cancer, not just prostate cancer, not just cancer, but really across the board. And we're going to be mingling with them. Hopefully we're going to find some people that might want to start virtual groups for their conditions. And I'm presenting and involved in 2 or 3 panels and presenting as well. So we're looking forward to it, and we'll give you a report. Probably I'll let Peter do the report because I'm too biased. So Peter will be less biased. It's the first time he's attending, and so it'll be more relevant to hear what he says than what I tell you. I was there last year. So, all right, guys, next week, back to Monday night, the 15th, and we'll talk to you all at that time. I guess that pizza that Hannum, whatever his son bought, it must have been pretty good because he hasn't been back to talk to us. You notice that, Len?
He may be back. He hasn't hung up. He's still there. He's muted.
I know. He's going to have to listen right through to the end to hear these comments, though. Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thanks, everybody.
Night.